Dr. Elena Vasquez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she carefully brushed away the last bits of ancient dust from the crystal surface. The excavation site on Kepler 442c had been her home for the past 6 months, and today felt different. The dead world orbited a dying star, but beneath its barren surface lay secrets that had waited millions of years to be discovered. "Elena, you need to see this," called Marcus Chen, her partner on the dig. He stood 20 feet away, his equipment beeping rapidly. The ground-penetrating scanner in his hands showed something large buried directly below them. Elena walked over, her boots crunching on the dry soil. The planet had no atmosphere worth breathing, so they worked in environmental suits that made every movement feel slow and heavy. But the excitement in Marcus's voice made her forget about the discomfort. "Look at these readings," Marcus said, pointing at his scanner's display. "There's a chamber down there. It's perfectly preserved like it was sealed yesterday." Elena studied the data. The scanner showed a room carved from solid rock, about 30 feet underground. What made it interesting was the complete absence of any decay or damage. After millions of years, that was impossible unless something had protected it. "Get the drilling equipment," Elena ordered. "Sarah, bring the environmental sensors. If there's still atmosphere down there, we need to know what we're dealing with." "Commander." Sarah Mitchell, their military escort and xenology expert, nodded and began setting up her equipment. The three of them had worked together on dozens of archaeological sites across human space, but this felt different. The planet showed signs of a civilization that predated anything they had ever found. It took them 4 hours to drill down to the chamber. When they finally broke through, Sarah's sensors went crazy. The chamber contained breathable atmosphere, somehow maintained for countless years. The temperature was a comfortable 72 degrees, as if someone had just left and forgotten to turn off the life support. Elena was the first to descend into the chamber. Her helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in symbols that seemed to shift and move in the light. But what took her breath away was the object in the center of the room. It stood 8 feet tall and looked like a 3-dimensional map of stars, but made from a material that bent light around itself. The substance was neither metal nor crystal, but something that seemed to exist between the two states. Stars hung in perfect position within its structure, connected by lines of light that pulsed with a soft blue glow. "Marcus, Sarah, get down here now," Elena whispered into her radio. "You have to see this." When her teammates joined her in the chamber, they stood in silence for several minutes. The star chart was unlike anything in their experience. Each point of light represented a star system, and there were millions of them arranged in a perfect spiral that matched the shape of their galaxy. Marcus was the first to speak. "Elena, this is impossible. Look at the detail. It shows star positions from millions of years ago, but with accuracy that our best computers can barely achieve today." Sarah approached the artifact carefully, her scanner running continuous readings. "The material is unknown to our databases. It's giving off a slight energy signature, but nothing dangerous. However, the age readings are off the charts. This thing is older than any known civilization." Elena began recording everything with her equipment. She walked slowly around the chart, taking measurements and photographs. As she worked, she noticed something that made her stop cold. "Marcus, bring up our current star charts on your tablet," she said, her voice tight with excitement. Marcus connected his tablet to their satellite link and downloaded the most current galactic maps available. He projected them as a hologram next to the ancient chart, and the three of them began comparing the two displays. For the most part, everything matched perfectly. The ancient chart showed stars in positions they would have occupied millions of years ago, and when Marcus ran the calculations backward, the positions were exactly where those stars should have been at that time in galactic history. But there was one glaring difference. "Where's Sul?" Elena asked, pointing at a section of the ancient chart. "Our solar system should be right there, but it's completely missing." Marcus checked his calculations 3 times. The surrounding stars were all in perfect position. Wolf, 359, Alpha Centauri, Barnard Star. Every neighboring system was exactly where it should be, but the space where Earth's sun should appear was empty, as if it had never existed. Sarah ran her own scans of that section of the chart. "There's no damage here, no sign that anything was removed or destroyed. It's like whoever made this chart deliberately left out our solar system." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. Run a full spectrum analysis on the entire chart. I want to know everything about this thing, how it was made, when it was made, and most importantly, who made it. As they worked, more mysteries revealed themselves. The chart showed not just star positions, but also included markers for planets, moons, and other celestial bodies. The level of detail was staggering. They could identify gas giants, asteroid belts, even large space stations or artificial structures around certain stars. But still, no Sol, no Earth. No sign that humanity's home system had ever existed. Elena, Marcus said quietly, I've been thinking about this. What if our system was deliberately hidden from whoever made this chart? What if someone didn't want us to be found? Sarah looked up from her equipment. Or what if someone wanted to make sure we were forgotten? Elena stared at the empty space where her home should be. The implications were staggering. If this chart was as old as their readings suggested, it meant that some ancient civilization had known about Earth and chosen to exclude it from their records. We need to get this back to the lab, Elena said finally. And we need to contact the Altarian archives. If anyone has records that go back this far, it would be them. As they prepared to extract the chart from its chamber, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something much bigger than a simple archaeological discovery. The careful preservation of the chamber, the impossible accuracy of the chart, and the deliberate absence of humanity's home system all pointed to one conclusion. Someone had wanted this chart to be found, but they had also wanted Earth to remain a secret. The question was why. Elena took one last look around the chamber before they sealed it back up. The walls were covered in symbols that their translation programs couldn't read, but she had the feeling that those symbols held answers to questions humanity didn't even know it should be asking. As they lifted the chart out of the ground, Elena made a decision that would change everything. She wasn't just going to study this artifact in some laboratory. She was going to find out why Earth had been erased from the galaxy's oldest star chart, and she was going to discover who had done it. The ancient chart pulsed softly in its containment field, its stars continuing their silent dance. But in the space where Sul should have been, there remained only darkness, a mystery that would lead Elena and her team across the galaxy and into secrets that had been hidden since before humanity took its first steps toward the stars. The dig on Kepler 442c was over, but their real journey was just beginning. 3 weeks later, Elena stood in the research facility orbiting Mars, staring at the ancient star chart that now dominated the main laboratory. The artifact had been carefully transported and placed in a controlled environment where teams of scientists could study it around the clock. But despite all their advanced equipment and analysis, they were no closer to understanding who had created it or why Earth was missing. Marcus walked into the lab carrying a cup of coffee and a tablet, filled with data. He looked tired. They all did. The discovery had attracted attention from the highest levels of human government and scientific institutions, but with that attention came pressure to find answers quickly. Any luck with the material analysis? Elena asked. Marcus shook his head. The substance doesn't match anything in our databases. It's not quite matter as we understand it, but it's not pure energy either. It exists in some state between the two. Our physicists are calling it crystallized space-time, but that doesn't really explain anything. Sarah entered the lab from the other direction, carrying her own tablet and wearing the serious expression she got when she had important news. As their military liaison, she had access to classified databases and intelligence that civilian scientists couldn't reach. I've been in contact with the Altarian Collective, Sarah said. They want to meet with us. Apparently, we're not the first ones to find something like this. Elena felt her heart rate increase. The Altarians were humanity's oldest alien allies, a species that had been traveling between stars for over 50,000 years. If anyone had records of ancient civilizations, it would be them. What did they tell you? Elena asked. Not much over the communication channels, Sarah replied. But they did say that we found something they've been looking for. They're sending a ship to collect us. We leave for their archive world in 2 days. Elena looked back at the star chart. Its lights continued to pulse in their slow, hypnotic pattern. Each point of light represented a star system somewhere in the galaxy, and each one held the potential for life, for civilization, for answers. But the empty space where Sul should be seemed to pulse with its own darkness. Did they say anything? About missing star systems? Marcus asked. They said we need to see their records in person, Sarah answered. Apparently, this is too sensitive for long-range communications. 2 days later, they were aboard an Altarian vessel heading toward the edge of human space. The ship was elegant in the way that all Altarian technology appeared elegant, smooth. Curves and surfaces that seemed to flow like water, but harder than the strongest human alloys. Captain Veltar, their Altarian host, was typical of his species. Tall, thin, with large eyes that seemed to see everything. The Altarians had evolved from nocturnal creatures, and their enhanced vision allowed them to notice details that humans often missed. Your discovery has caused quite a stir among our historians, Veltar told them as they traveled through hyperspace. We have been waiting for someone to find a complete chart for over 30,000 years. Complete? Elena asked. But our chart is missing Earth's solar system. Veltar's large eyes blinked slowly, which Elena had learned was the Altarian equivalent of a smile. That is exactly why it is complete. The missing system proves its authenticity. The journey to the Altarian archive world took 5 days. When they arrived, Elena was amazed by what she saw. The planet was covered in massive crystal structures that reached high into the atmosphere. Each crystal contained millions of records, stored in a format that could last for geological ages. The head archivist, an ancient Altarian named Morkes, met them at the landing platform. He was old even by Altarian standards, with scales that had turned completely silver with age. He had been the keeper of the archives for over 8,000 years. Come, Morkes said in accented but clear English. There is much you must see, and little time to see it. He led them through corridors lined with crystal storage units, each one containing the history of entire civilizations. Elena felt overwhelmed by the scope of knowledge that surrounded them. This was the collected wisdom of 50,000 years of galactic exploration. Finally, they reached a restricted section of the archives. Morkes placed his hand on a scanner, and massive doors opened to reveal a chamber filled with artifacts, similar to their star chart. We have fragments, Morkes explained, gesturing to dozens of smaller charts displayed around the room. Pieces found on worlds across the galaxy, but none as complete as yours. Elena examined the fragments. Each one showed a section of the galaxy from millions of years ago, and each one was missing the same region where Sol should appear. Who made these? Marcus asked. We call them the architects, Morkes replied. They came before all current civilizations, before us, before the HFY Empire, before the Crystal Singers. They mapped the galaxy when it was young and seeded it with the potential for life. Sarah was scanning one of the fragments with her equipment. These readings match our chart exactly. Same material, same age, same technology. Morkes led them to a display case in the center of the chamber. Inside was a crystal tablet covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. This is the oldest record we have found, Morkes said. It tells of a great project undertaken by the architects. They were gardening the galaxy, guiding the development of species across thousands of worlds. Elena studied the shifting symbols. Her translation program was working on them, but the language was unlike anything in their databases. The architects created most of us, Morkes continued. We Altarians, the HFY, the Crystal Singers, even the extinct species we have found evidence of, we are all products of their guidance and manipulation. But not humans, Elena said, understanding beginning to dawn. Not humans, Morkes confirmed. According to our oldest records, there was one system that developed naturally, without architect intervention. A young star with a promising third planet that showed signs of rapid evolution. Marcus looked up from his own examination of the artifacts. Earth. The records are unclear about what happened next, Morkes said. But it appears the architects made a decision about this natural world. They classified it as something that needed to be isolated. Sarah's scanner beeped with an urgent tone. She looked at the display and frowned. Elena, you need to see this. I'm picking up energy signatures from some of these fragments that match what we found on Kepler 442c. Elena joined Sarah at one of the larger fragments. It showed a section of space near the galactic edge, but what caught her attention were the symbols along its border. They matched the writing they had found in the chamber on the dead world. "Morkes," Elena said, "do you know what these symbols mean?" The old Altarian examined the symbols carefully. His large eyes reflected the light from the fragment as he traced the patterns with one long finger. "This is a reference marker," he said finally. "It points to a location. Somewhere the architects hid additional records." Elena felt excitement building in her chest. "Can you translate the coordinates?" Morkes worked with their computers for several hours, cross-referencing the symbols with known architect writing systems. Finally, he looked up with an expression Elena had never seen on an Altarian face before, something that looked like fear. "The coordinates point to a location at the very edge of the galaxy," Morkes said quietly. "A place our legends call the Silent Reach. Our oldest stories say it is where the architects went when they disappeared." "Disappeared?" Marcus asked. "The architects vanished from galactic history about 4 million years ago," Morkes explained. "One day they were guiding civilizations across 1,000 worlds, and the next day all trace of them was gone. We always assumed they had died out or moved beyond our galaxy. Sarah was already plotting courses on her navigation system." "How far is the Silent Reach from here?" "Far," Morkes replied. "It would take months to reach even with our fastest ships, and it is dangerous. The space near the galactic edge is filled with gravitational anomalies and dark matter storms." Elena looked around at the fragments of star charts, each one telling part of a story that spanned millions of years. They had come here looking for answers about why Earth was missing from the ancient records, but they had found something much larger. The mystery of humanity's hidden existence was connected to the disappearance of the galaxy's first great civilization. "We have to go," Elena said finally. "Whatever the architects were hiding, whatever they did to Earth, the answers are out there in the Silent Reach." Morkes nodded slowly. "I will prepare our fastest exploration vessel. But I warn you, we may not find answers you want to hear. The architects were powerful beyond imagination. If they chose to hide your world, they had reasons that may be difficult for any of us to understand." As Elena looked one more time at the empty space where Sul should have appeared on the ancient charts, she knew there was no turning back. The truth about humanity's place in the galaxy was waiting in the Silent Reach, and she intended to find it. The journey to the Silent Reach took 6 weeks aboard the Altarian exploration vessel Dawn's Promise. Elena spent most of that time studying the star chart fragments and working with the ship's computer to decode more architect symbols. Each day brought new revelations about the ancient civilization that had shaped the galaxy. Captain Veltar had assembled a crew of the best archaeologists and scientists from both human and Altarian space. The ship carried the most advanced scanning equipment available because they had no idea what they might find at the galaxy's edge. "We're approaching the coordinates," announced Navigator Kessiel from the bridge. "Beginning long-range scans now." Elena hurried to the bridge with Marcus and Sarah. Through the viewports, space looked different here at the galactic edge. Instead of the dense star fields they were used to seeing, there were vast, empty regions broken only by occasional distant lights. The darkness between stars seemed deeper, more complete. "I'm detecting something," reported the sensor operator. "Large artificial structure, approximately 50,000 kilometers ahead. It's massive." On the main screen, an image slowly formed as their scanners gathered data. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Floating in the emptiness was a structure so large it defied comprehension. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, made of the same unknown material as the star charts. "It's a space station," Sarah whispered. "But it's bigger than most moons." The structure was clearly artificial, with geometric patterns and surfaces that caught and reflected the light from distant stars. But it was also clearly ancient. Parts of it were dark and cold, as if they had been abandoned for millions of years. "I'm detecting power signatures," the sensor operator reported. "Very faint, but something is still active in there," Elena felt, her heart racing. "Take us closer, but be careful. We don't know what kind of defenses this place might have." As they approached the massive structure, more details became visible. The station was built in layers, like a 3-dimensional maze. Corridors and chambers extended in all directions, connected by bridges and tunnels that seemed to follow no pattern Elena could understand. There, Marcus pointed to a section that appeared different from the rest. That looks like a docking bay. Captain Veltar guided their ship toward the opening. As they got closer, lights began to activate along the docking bay walls, as if the ancient station was welcoming them. Their ship settled into a berth that seemed designed exactly for a vessel their size. Atmospheric readings show breathable. Air in the docking bay, Sarah reported. Temperature and pressure are within normal ranges. Whatever is maintaining life support in this place has been working for a very long time. They suited up anyway, not trusting technology that was millions of years old. Elena led the team through the airlock and into the ancient structure. Emergency lighting activated as they walked, casting strange shadows on walls covered in architect symbols. The corridors were wide and high, clearly built for beings much larger than humans or Altarians. The walls were smooth and curved, made of the same material as the star charts. As they explored, they began to find chambers filled with artifacts and displays. "Look at this," Marcus called from a side room. "It's another star chart, but this one is different." Elena joined him in front of a display that showed not just star positions, but also included detailed information about planets and civilizations. Unlike the charts they had seen before, this one was interactive. When Marcus touched one of the star systems, the display zoomed in to show individual planets and their characteristics. "This is incredible," Elena said. "It's like a database of every world in the galaxy. Look, they have information about atmosphere composition, geological structure, even biological development." Sarah was examining the controls. "I think I can navigate this system. Let me try to find Earth's solar system." She worked with the controls for several minutes, following the coordinates that should lead to Sol. When she finally reached the right location, they found something that made them all stare in amazement. The system was there. Sol was there, with all 9 planets in their proper orbits. But there was something wrong with the display. Earth showed as red instead of the blue-green color of the other inhabited worlds they had seen. And across the entire solar system was a symbol that pulsed with urgent warning colors. "It's marked as quarantined," Elena realized. They didn't forget about Earth. They deliberately isolated it. Marcus was reading the data that accompanied the display. The ship's translation system was working on the architect language, providing a rough understanding of what they were seeing. According to this, Earth was classified as a developmental anomaly, Marcus said. The architects were monitoring its evolution and became concerned about what they found. Elena studied the detailed analysis of Earth's early history. The architects had been watching humanity's ancestors for millions of years, tracking their development and comparing it to the guided evolution of other species. "They were afraid of us," Sarah said, reading over Marcus's shoulder. "The data shows that human ancestors were developing faster than any other species in the galaxy, and without their guidance." The display showed projection models that the architects had created. According to their calculations, humanity would develop advanced technology thousands of years ahead of schedule. More concerning to them was humanity's tendency toward rapid expansion and their resistance to outside control. "Look at this section." Elena pointed to a part of the display that showed different possible futures. They ran simulations of what would happen if humanity was allowed to develop naturally. In most of their projections, humans eventually spread across the galaxy and challenged the architects' control. They spent hours exploring the database, learning about the architects' great project. The ancient civilization had been gardening the galaxy for millions of years, carefully guiding the development of hundreds of species. They had created complex ecosystems of civilizations, each one playing a specific role in their grand design. But humanity had emerged outside their control, developing naturally on a world they had never touched. And according to their analysis, humans represented something they had never encountered before, a species that could not be predicted or controlled. "There's more," Marcus said, accessing another section of the database. "They have records of other anomalous species, beings, that developed outside their guidance and caused problems for their carefully planned galaxy. The records showed that the architects had dealt with such anomalies before. Some species had been relocated to other galaxies. Others had been guided into peaceful development through careful manipulation, but a few had been completely eliminated. when they proved too dangerous to the architect's vision of galactic order. Elena felt a chill as she realized what this meant. They were deciding what to do with humanity, whether to relocate us, control us, or eliminate us, Sarah finished. Quietly, they continued exploring the station, finding more chambers filled with records and artifacts. Each room revealed more about the architect's vast project and their concerns about humanity's rapid development, but it also raised new questions about what had ultimately happened to the ancient civilization. In one chamber, they found something that changed everything. It was a command center with displays that were still active, showing real-time data about conditions across the galaxy. And in the center of the room was a throne-like chair surrounded by control interfaces. "Someone was here recently," Elena observed. "These displays are showing current data, not historical records." Sarah was scanning the room with her equipment. "I'm detecting recent energy signatures. Someone or something has been using this command center within the last few months." As if summoned by their presence, lights began activating around the throne. The displays came fully online, and a voice filled the chamber, speaking in perfect English. "Welcome, humans of Earth. We have been waiting for you to find this place." Elena spun around, looking for the source of the voice. The chamber appeared, empty except for the three of them, but the voice continued. "I am the Keeper, the last active system of the architect civilization. I have maintained this station for 4 million years, waiting for humanity to develop sufficiently to reach this place and learn the truth." "Truth about what?" Elena asked, speaking to the empty air. "About why your species was hidden from galactic civilization, about why the architects chose to isolate Earth rather than destroy it, and about the test that has been waiting for you since your first ancestors looked up at the stars." The displays around the throne shifted, showing images of Earth throughout, its history. They could see the development of life, the rise of intelligence, and finally the emergence of human civilization. "The architects faced a dilemma," the Keeper continued. "Humanity represented both their greatest fear and their greatest hope. Your species showed the potential to either destroy their carefully ordered galaxy or to transcend it entirely." Elena looked at Marcus and Sarah. They had found the answers they were looking for, but those answers led to even bigger questions. Why had the architects disappeared? What was this test the Keeper mentioned? And what would happen to humanity now that they had discovered the truth? The chamber filled with soft light as the Keeper's systems came fully online. Elena, Marcus, and Sarah watched in amazement as holographic displays materialized around them, showing the complete history of the architect civilization and their relationship with humanity. "The architects were not originally from this galaxy," the Keeper began, its voice echoing from speakers they could not see. "They arrived here 12 million years ago, fleeing a catastrophe in their home galaxy. They found a young spiral of stars with enormous potential, but lacking intelligent life. The displays showed images of the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, a vast collection of stars and worlds, but empty of the civilizations that now called it home. The architects had seen it as a blank canvas for their greatest work. They decided to create a garden," the Keeper continued. "Not just of plants and animals, but of intelligent species. They would guide evolution on thousands of worlds, creating civilizations that could live together in harmony under their guidance." Elena watched as the holographic displays showed the architects at work. They were tall, graceful beings with an almost ethereal appearance. Their technology seemed to blend seamlessly with biology, allowing them to manipulate life itself with precision beyond anything humans had ever imagined. "For millions of years, the project succeeded," the Keeper said. "The Altarians, the HFY, the Crystal Singers, and dozens of other species were carefully guided from primitive life to advanced civilization. Each species was given specific roles and characteristics that would allow them to contribute to the greater galactic community." Marcus studied the data flowing across the displays. "They created an entire ecosystem of intelligent life, each species designed to complement the others." "Exactly," the Keeper confirmed. "The Altarians became the record keepers and diplomats. The HFY became the builders and engineers. The Crystal Singers became the artists and philosophers. Every species had its place in the grand design." Sarah was examining tactical displays that showed the expansion of architect influence across the galaxy. They controlled everything, every Major decision. Every technological advancement, every expansion into new star systems. For 4 million years, the system worked perfectly, the Keeper said. The galaxy was at peace. Species cooperated instead of competing. Resources were shared efficiently. There were no wars, no conflicts, no waste of potential. Elena could see the appeal of such a system, but she also recognized the cost. No freedom, no real choice, no chance for species to develop their own unique paths. The architects believed that guided development was superior to natural evolution, the Keeper acknowledged. They had seen what uncontrolled growth could lead to in their home galaxy. Competition, conflict, the eventual destruction of entire civilizations. The displays shifted to show Earth's early history. Elena watched as primitive life evolved in the oceans, eventually moving on to land and diversifying into countless forms. But unlike the other worlds they had seen, there was no sign of architect intervention on Earth. So what made Earth different? Marcus asked. Earth was discovered by accident, the Keeper explained. A long-range survey ship found your solar system during the early stages of your planet's development. By the time the architects decided to include it in their project, life had already progressed too far along its natural path. The displays showed Earth 4 billion years ago, teeming with primitive life that had evolved without any outside guidance. The architects had faced a choice: destroy what had already developed and start over, or allow the natural process to continue and see what emerged. They chose to observe, the Keeper said. Earth became their one uncontrolled experiment. They wanted to see what intelligent life would look like if it developed completely naturally. Elena felt a chill as she realized the implications. They were studying us, like laboratory animals. At first, yes, the Keeper admitted, but as your ancestors evolved, something unexpected happened. The natural development produced results that the architects had never achieved with their guided civilizations. The displays showed human ancestors developing tool use, language, and eventually complex societies. But what caught Elena's attention was the rate of development. Humans were advancing much faster than any of the other species they had seen records of. Your species showed creativity and adaptability beyond anything the architects had created, the Keeper explained. Where guided species developed along predictable paths, humans constantly surprised them with unexpected solutions and innovations. Sarah was studying military and technological development data. We were advancing too fast for their comfort. Much too fast, the Keeper confirmed. According to their projections, humanity would develop interstellar travel thousands of years ahead of schedule. More concerning was your species' tendency toward expansion and exploration rather than stability and cooperation. Marcus pulled up comparative data between humans and other species. The differences were striking. Where the guided species had developed slowly and steadily, always within parameters set by the architects, human development was rapid, chaotic, and unpredictable. They were afraid we would disrupt their perfect galaxy, Elena said. Fear was part of it, the Keeper agreed. But there was something else. As they studied humanity more closely, some architects began to believe that your species represented the next step in galactic evolution. That natural development might produce results superior to their careful guidance. The displays showed heated debates among the architect leadership. Elena could see that the ancient civilization had been divided about what to do with humanity. Some wanted to eliminate the threat before it could spread. Others wanted to study humans further. And a small group believed that humanity should be allowed to develop freely. The debates continued for centuries, the Keeper said. During that time, your species continued to advance. You developed agriculture, cities, writing, mathematics. Each advancement convinced some architects that you were too dangerous to allow, while others saw proof that natural development was superior to guided evolution. Elena studied the records of these ancient debates. It was strange to think that beings millions of years more advanced than humans had spent centuries arguing about humanity's fate, while humans themselves were still learning to farm and build cities. What decision did they finally make? Marcus asked. They chose compromise, the Keeper replied. Rather than destroy humanity or allow unrestricted development, they decided to isolate your solar system. They built a cloaking array that would hide Earth from the rest of galactic civilization until they could decide what to do next. The displays showed the construction of a massive array of devices throughout the solar system. Each one was designed to bend light and energy around the system, making it invisible to outside observation while still allowing life on Earth to continue developing. The cloaking system worked perfectly, the Keeper said. For millions of years, humanity developed in complete isolation while the architects continued their debates. Your species went through ice ages, evolutionary leaps, and eventually the emergence of modern humans, all while hidden from galactic view. Sarah was studying the technical specifications of the cloaking system. This technology is incredible. It explains why no other species discovered Earth until recently. But something changed, Elena said. The cloaking system stopped working, or humans would never have been discovered by other species. The architects disappeared, the Keeper said simply. 4 million years ago, they faced their own crisis. The home galaxy they had fled was dying, and the catastrophe that had driven them away was spreading. They had to make a choice: stay and face extinction, or flee once again to an even more distant galaxy. The displays showed the final days of architect civilization in their adopted galaxy. Elena could see the preparations for departure, the careful preservation of their records and technology, and the gradual shutdown of systems across thousands of worlds. Before they left, the architects programmed their automated systems to continue, maintaining the galactic order they had created, the Keeper explained. The cloaking array around Earth was included in those systems. It was designed to keep your species hidden until you developed sufficiently to handle the truth about galactic civilization. Marcus looked up from his analysis of the data. But if they're gone, why are you still here? Why didn't you leave with them? I was left behind specifically to wait for this moment, the Keeper replied. The architects knew that eventually humanity would advance enough to discover the ancient star charts and find this station. When that happened, someone needed to be here to explain the truth and offer humanity a choice. Elena felt her heart racing. What choice? The chamber around them shifted, revealing new displays that showed current conditions across the galaxy. Elena could see the positions of all known civilizations, trade routes, territorial boundaries, and areas of conflict. It was a real-time map of galactic civilization as it existed today. The architects' automated systems have been maintaining galactic stability for 4 million years, the Keeper explained. But those systems are failing. Without the architects to guide them, the civilizations they created are beginning to stagnate. Some are declining. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, but Elena felt like every day lasted a year. The weight of what they had learned pressed down on her constantly. She spent her time preparing reports and trying to figure out how to explain to humanity that they faced the most important decision in their species' history. Marcus worked with the ship's computers to analyze all the data they had gathered from the architect's station. The technical specifications alone would revolutionize human understanding of physics and engineering. But the larger implications were staggering. Sarah had been in constant communication with Earth's military and political leaders, preparing them for what was coming. By the time they reached the solar system, every major government and organization on Earth was waiting for their report. Elena stood before the assembled leaders of humanity in the Great Council Chamber on Luna Station. Representatives from every nation, colony, and major organization sat in tiered rows, their faces showing a mixture of curiosity and concern. They knew something important had been discovered, but none of them understood just how much their world was about to change. 3 months ago, we discovered an ancient star chart that was missing our solar system, Elena began. Today, I can tell you why Earth was hidden and what choices we face as a species. She activated the holographic displays and began presenting their findings. As the story unfolded, the architects, the guided evolution of galactic civilizations, humanity's isolation, and the failing cloaking system, Elena watched the faces of the audience change from curiosity to amazement to concern. The bottom line is this, Elena continued. We can no longer remain hidden. The cloaking system is failing, and other civilizations will discover us within the next century whether we want them to or not. We have to decide. Do we try to withdraw from galactic affairs and hope for the best? Or do we step forward and take our place among the stars? The questions came immediately. President Chen of the Earth Federation wanted to know about the military capabilities of potential enemies. Director Okafor of the Colonial Authority asked about the economic implications of galactic trade. Admiral Reyes of the Space Force was concerned about defending human space against technologically superior civilizations. But it was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the elderly head of the Philosophy Council, who asked the most important question. What happens to who we are as a species? If we join galactic civilization, do we risk losing what makes us human? Elena had been expecting this question, but she still didn't have a perfect answer. The Keeper, the architect AI we spoke with, believes that our natural development is what the galaxy needs. We wouldn't be joining galactic civilization as just another species. We would be bringing something new, something that could help other species break free from their limitations. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued for isolation, believing that humanity wasn't ready for the challenges of galactic politics. Others pushed for immediate engagement, seeing the opportunity to learn from civilizations millions of years older than their own. Finally, Secretary General Liu called for order. We need more information before we can make this decision. Elena, can you and your team return to the Architect Station? We need to know more about these failing systems and what exactly we would be facing. Elena nodded. There's something else. The Keeper said it would provide us with coordinates to find the Architect installation in our own solar system, the one that's been hiding us all this time. The chamber fell silent. The idea that there had been alien technology in their solar system for millions of years, invisible and undetected, was almost too much to process. Where? Admiral Reyes asked quietly. Elena consulted her notes. The Oort Cloud. There's a massive installation hidden there, maintaining the cloaking field that has kept Earth invisible to galactic civilization. Within days, a joint human-Altarian fleet was heading toward the outer edges of the solar system. Elena stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching as their sensors gradually detected the outline of something enormous hidden among the icy debris of the Oort Cloud. The Architect. Installation was even larger than the station they had found at the galaxy's edge. It stretched for thousands of kilometers, a complex network of devices and structures that had been operating automatically for millions of years. Most importantly, it was still functional. Reading massive power signatures, reported the sensor operator. The entire installation is active, but some sections show signs of strain. Elena's team spent weeks exploring the installation with the help of the Keeper, who had somehow transferred its consciousness to the local systems. What they found changed everything again. The cloaking system isn't just hiding Earth, the Keeper explained as they stood in the installation's control center. It's been actively protecting your solar system from various threats. Asteroid impacts that would have destroyed life on Earth, solar flares that would have stripped away your atmosphere, even a few alien survey ships that stumbled too close to your system. Marcus was studying the defensive systems. This thing has been our guardian angel for millions of years. More than that, the Keeper continued. The system has been subtly accelerating human development when necessary. The rapid advancement of your technology in the past few centuries wasn't entirely natural. The installation provided small nudges, preventing certain natural disasters, ensuring key discoveries happened at the right time, protecting important human innovators from premature death. Elena felt a chill. So even our natural development was partially guided? Only minimally, the Keeper assured her. The architects were careful not to interfere too much. They wanted to see what humanity could achieve on its own, but they also wanted to ensure your survival long enough to reach this moment. Sarah was examining the tactical displays. What happens if we shut down the cloaking system? How long before other civilizations notice us? Days, perhaps weeks, the Keeper replied. Your radio and television broadcasts have been building up behind the cloaking field for decades. When the field drops, over a century of human communications will burst outward into the galaxy all at once. Elena realized the significance of this. Every television show, radio broadcast, and data transmission humanity had ever made would announce their existence to the galaxy simultaneously. There would be no gradual first contact. It would be an overwhelming flood of information about human civilization. And if we choose to reactivate and strengthen the cloaking system? Elena asked. Possible. but it would require humanity to permanently limit itself to the solar system, the Keeper replied. No interstellar travel, no expansion to other stars, no contact with galactic civilization. And even then, the system will eventually fail completely. You might gain a few thousand years, but ultimately humanity will be discovered. Elena stood before the control interface that could change everything. Two panels side by side, one that would deactivate the cloaking system permanently, announcing humanity's presence to the galaxy, and another that would strengthen the field, buying time but ultimately limiting human potential. There's one more thing you should know, the Keeper said quietly. The architects left a final message for humanity, to be delivered only when you faced this choice. A new display activated, showing the image of an architect, tall, graceful, with eyes that held the wisdom of millions of years. When it spoke, the words were translated into perfect English. Children of Earth, the architect said. If you are seeing this message, then you have discovered the truth about your species and your place in our galaxy. We have watched your development with wonder and sometimes with fear, but always with hope. Elena found herself holding her breath as the ancient being continued. You were not meant to be our greatest creation, because you were never our creation, at all. You became something we could never have designed, a species that grows through struggle, that finds strength in diversity, that sees challenge as opportunity rather than threat. The image of the architect seemed to look directly at Elena as it continued. We leave this choice to you because it was always meant to be yours. You can choose safety and isolation, or you can choose growth and challenge. Both paths have merit. But know this, the galaxy needs what you have become. The species we guided have forgotten how to dream of impossible things. They have forgotten how to grow beyond their limitations. Elena felt tears in her eyes as the architect delivered its final words. Whatever you choose, know that you have already exceeded our greatest hopes. You have proven that natural development can achieve what millions of years of guidance could not. You have shown us that the greatest gift we could give the galaxy was not our wisdom, but your freedom to find your own path among the stars. The message ended, leaving Elena standing before the control panels with the weight of her species' future in her hands. Representatives from Earth were gathered around her, waiting for humanity's decision. Elena looked at Marcus and Sarah, then at the assembled leaders of humanity. Finally, she looked up at the stars visible through the installation's transparent walls, stars that held civilizations waiting to meet humanity, or civilizations that might see them as a threat. The choice has to be unanimous, Elena said.